The planet of Lareth hung quietly in the outer spiral of the galaxy. Its green fields stretched for miles, dotted with small towns and villages that looked like they had never known trouble. The people of Lareth, called the Elvari, were gentle and peaceful. They farmed the land, raised children, and studied the stars. But they had never known war. Stories from other planets sounded like distant thunder, strange and frightening, but not something they had ever experienced. For centuries, Lareth had remained untouched, a quiet corner of the galaxy where life moved slowly and safely. One morning, the Elvari noticed something unusual. From the horizon came a shadow that moved fast and low. Smoke curled up from one of the villages in the north, a place called Venor. Panic spread as messengers ran across the fields. The Elvari had never seen machines that moved so quickly, machines that carried fire without reason. The Breck swarm had come. The Breck were raiders from a distant system. They did not care about peace, about trade, or about life. They only took, destroyed, and left fear in their path. The Elvari were defenseless. They had tools for farming and science, but not for war. The Council of Elders gathered in the main hall of Lareth's capital. The room was filled with the soft glow of bioluminescent lamps and the quiet murmur of worried voices. Maela, a young healer with wide, cautious eyes, listened as Elder Cora spoke. "We must send a call for help," she said, her voice trembling. "If the Breck continue, they will destroy everything." Her hands shook as she gestured to the maps of Lareth, showing burned villages and fleeing families. "But who will come?" asked Elder Niall. "Our neighbors are far, and the Galactic Union is too slow. By the time anyone arrives, the Breck will be gone, and we will be left with nothing." The council fell silent. Fear hung in the room like a thick fog. The Elvari were proud and careful, but they knew their technology and weapons were no match for the Breck swarm. Finally, it was Maela who suggested the idea that no one expected. "There is a signal station on the edge of the star field," she said. "It is old and rarely used. Perhaps we can send a request for help into deep space. We do not know who will receive it. But if we do not try, there is no hope." The council agreed. Though the plan was uncertain, it was the only chance they had. The signal was simple, a basic call for assistance, coded in the universal format used across the galaxy. Maela and a small team worked day and night to encode the message, adding coordinates, the scale of the attack, and details about the Breck's weapons. When it was complete, it flashed into the void. They had no idea who might respond, no idea if anyone would ever come. The Elvari watched the signal drift into deep space, holding onto a fragile thread of hope. Days passed. The Breck swarmed the northern fields, burning homes and taking what they wanted. Families hid in the forests or fled to caves. Maela ran between the injured, using her healing skills to mend burns and broken bones. Every day, she wondered if anyone would ever answer their call. Every night, she looked at the stars, wishing for a miracle. And one night, the miracle came. Far across the spiral arm, an old human patrol ship floated quietly in the emptiness. The crew had been following a routine survey mission, charting unclaimed space, when their communication officer picked up the faint Elvari distress signal. The human crew was small, but experienced. Their commander, Brian Carter, read the message carefully. It was simple but urgent. The words told of villages burning, families captured, and a species facing extinction. Something inside, Brian stirred. He knew the Galactic Union could take weeks or months to respond. Weeks were too long. He looked at his team, seeing the same determination mirrored in their eyes. "We cannot ignore this," Brian said quietly. His voice was calm, but it carried weight. "We do not know them, and we do not owe them anything. But they need help, and we can give it." His words hung in the small bridge of the ship. Lily Ward, the pilot, nodded, her hands already moving to set a new course. Jason Brooks, the engineer, adjusted the ship's power to prepare for fast travel. The human crew moved quickly and efficiently. Every habit, every procedure, was trained for this exact kind of emergency. They did not hesitate, and they did not complain. They simply acted. Back on Lareth, the Elvari did not expect fast help. They had sent the signal days ago and had already begun to accept their losses. Villages lay in ruins, and families whispered prayers under the stars, hoping for a savior. Maella worked tirelessly, gathering children, carrying food, and tending to the wounded. She had never left the planet's central region before, and now she ran through destroyed farms and burned fields, her heart racing with fear and exhaustion. Then, in the sky above the largest valley, a shadow appeared. At first, the Elvari thought it was another Breck patrol, ready to take more. But the shape moved differently. It was not jagged or menacing. It glided smoothly, its lights steady and calm. The humans had arrived. The Elvari stared in disbelief. They had called for help and never imagined that anyone would come so fast. A small shuttle descended near the edge of the valley, kicking up dust and debris. And a door opened. A figure stepped out. Brian Carter, tall and steady, raised his hands in peace. His uniform was simple, but it radiated confidence. Behind him, Lily and Jason prepared equipment, their movements precise and practiced. The Elvari could not understand fully what they were seeing. They had called for help, but this was not what they expected. These were not diplomats, not slow Union soldiers. These were outsiders, strangers who seemed to know exactly what to do in the midst of chaos. Villagers peeked from the trees and hills, watching the humans organize, set up defenses, and begin evacuating the wounded. Maella's heart lifted. She had never imagined anyone could act so quickly or with such calm determination. The first encounter with the Breck swarm was immediate. Raiders appeared over the hills, sensing new prey. Their machines were larger and faster than anything the Elvari had faced. Fear surged, but the humans did not panic. Brian ordered a defensive line. Lily guided the frightened villagers behind safe positions, her voice calm but firm. Jason activated small drones that hovered above the fields, their sensors detecting the Breck and delivering precision fire. It was strange and wonderful to watch. The humans moved like a single organism, each knowing their role, each responding instantly to the threats around them. Maella could not believe her eyes. She had heard tales of human bravery, of legendary warriors, but never thought she would witness it firsthand. The humans fought with skill, but not recklessness. They protected the innocent, defended the fields, and slowed the raiders' advance. The Elvari watched and slowly joined in, encouraged by the humans' courage. Farmers lifted simple tools, villagers formed small defense lines, and even children helped where they could under careful supervision. The humans inspired them without a word, simply by showing what they could do. As the first day ended, the Breck retreated, confused and frustrated. They had expected easy prey, but they had met a species they had never encountered before. Humans were not warriors by legend. Alone they acted, adapted, and stood firm when others would flee. The Elvari gathered in the valley, their fear turning into wonder. Maella approached Brian and the others, her voice barely a whisper. "We did not think anyone would come," she said, "and yet, you came." Brian smiled slightly, brushing dirt from his uniform. "We do not ignore calls for help," he said. "It is what we do." That night, the humans rested in tents near the burned fields, while the Elvari tried to comprehend what had happened. Families reunited, some slowly returned to their damaged homes, and the Council of Elders began to plan with the humans for the next steps. Maella sat near the edge of the valley, looking up at the stars. She realized that the galaxy was larger and stranger than she had ever imagined. She realized that courage and help could come from the most unexpected places. And she realized, most of all, that humans were not like anyone she had ever known. They were fast, strong, adaptable, and unafraid to act when the moment demanded it. That thought stayed with her long into the night. The morning sun rose over the fields of Lareth, casting a soft gold light over the burned villages and scattered farms. Smoke still drifted from the ruins, and the air carried the sharp smell of ash and scorched metal. The Elvari were exhausted from the previous day, but their eyes held a spark of hope. The humans had arrived when no one else could, and for the first time, they felt the possibility of survival. Brian Carter walked among the villagers, observing the damage and listening to their stories. He was calm, but every detail mattered. Every home destroyed, every family separated, every injury counted. He wanted to understand the scale of the problem before deciding on the next move. Lily Ward moved among the children, teaching them how to move safely through the fields and forests, explaining simple ways to hide or signal if danger approached. Jason Brooks inspected the ruined irrigation towers, thinking about how he could turn them into defensive positions. The humans did not wait for orders from the Elvari. They acted. The Council of Elders gathered in the central hall once more. Maela stood near the doorway, watching the humans organize their efforts. Elder Cora spoke first. "We have never fought before," she said, her voice trembling. "We do not know how to defend ourselves. How can we face the Breck again?" Brian stepped forward. "You do not need to fight like them," he said. "You need to protect your people, your homes, and your families. We will show you how." The elders looked skeptical but willing. They had no other choice. The first step was simple. Gather the villagers and move the most vulnerable to safe areas. Lily guided groups of children, carrying small supplies and showing parents where to shelter. The humans moved with precision, splitting tasks into manageable steps. Maela helped, organizing the injured and frightened, and she began to see that the humans could turn chaos into order. For the first time, the Elvari felt a sense of control. Jason worked with small groups of volunteers, showing them how to convert old irrigation towers into watchposts. "We can use these towers to see the Breck coming," he explained. "We can add alarms, lights, and small drones to warn us." The Elvari were amazed. They had always used the towers for water and farming, never for defense. Jason's instructions were simple, and the villagers picked up the work quickly. By the end of the day, the towers were ready, blinking faint lights into the distance, and ready to send warnings. Brian and a team of stronger Elvari patrolled the outskirts of the main village. They found tracks of the Breck in the nearby forests and burned fields. Brian studied the paths carefully. "They will return tonight," he said. "We need to be ready." He set traps that were safe for the villagers, but would slow the Breck. He also mapped escape routes and hidden shelters in the surrounding woods. The humans thought ahead, not just for fighting but for survival. And the Elvari began to understand that strategy was different from fear. As night fell, distant sounds of engines and movement reached the village. The Breck were returning, more organized and aggressive than before. Panic rose in the hearts of the villagers, but the humans remained calm. "Stay where you are," Brian said. "Follow our instructions, and you will be safe." He turned to Lily and Jason. "We need to protect the main fields. They will try to break through there." Lily nodded, already coordinating small flying drones and gliders with lights to signal safe zones. Jason checked the energy supplies for the defensive towers. The first attack came suddenly. Breck raiders stormed the valley, their machines dark and jagged against the night sky. They fired indiscriminately at fields and structures. The humans moved immediately. Brian led a team that intercepted the attackers, using simple but effective weapons to push them back. The Elvari watched, some hidden behind trees and rocks, some standing in fear. Then they began to act. Guided by the humans, They helped carry supplies, guided the injured, and even picked up simple tools to defend the paths. The humans did not ask for heroics, they asked for participation, and the Elvari learned fast. Maila ran alongside Brian, carrying a small satchel of medical supplies. She watched as the humans worked. They were fast, organized, and fearless. Brian moved like he knew exactly what the Breck would do next. Lily coordinated from the skies, signaling safe paths to families running through the valley. Jason activated the towers, sending alarms and bright warning lights to confuse and slow the attackers. The Elvari had never seen this before. They had expected soldiers in armor, weapons that could blast anything. But these humans worked with what they had, adapting, predicting, and protecting. Hours passed. The Breck tried different tactics, but each time, the humans adapted. They guided villagers to shelters, created obstacles in the fields, and used the towers to spot enemy movements. Even when the Breck captured a small group of villagers, Brian and a few volunteers rescued them with careful planning and speed. Every time the humans acted, the Elvari felt a growing courage. They began to speak quietly among themselves, realizing that even though they had no experience in war, they could follow instructions, help their people, and survive. By midnight, the Breck withdrew. They were confused and frustrated. They had expected an easy raid, but they had met a species that worked together, guided by humans who did not panic and did not retreat. The valley was scarred, some homes destroyed, some fields burned, but the villagers were alive, and most had survived. For the first time, they saw that hope was not a dream. It could be reality. After the battle, the humans gathered with the Elvari in a temporary safe area. Maela approached Brian. "Why did you come?" she asked softly. "We did not expect anyone to help so quickly." Brian looked at her, tired but steady. "We do not ignore calls for help," he said. "It is what we do. We do not fight for glory or reward. We fight because it is the right thing to do. And you needed help." Maela nodded, understanding something she could not explain. The humans were different from any species she had known. They were fast, strong, and clever. But more than that, they acted when it mattered most. The Elvari Council met with the humans again. They discussed what had happened and what could happen next. Elder Cora spoke, her voice soft but firm. "We have learned much from you," she said. "Not just how to protect ourselves, but how to think and act. Your presence has given us courage we did not know we had." Brian replied simply, "Courage is inside all of you. You only need guidance sometimes. The rest comes from your choices and actions." That night, Maela could not sleep. She walked to the edge of the valley, looking at the stars. She thought about the humans and their strange, quiet strength. They had not promised to save the Elvari, yet they had come anyway. They had moved faster than any help the council could imagine. They had faced the Breck with courage and strategy, and they had inspired hope. Maela realized that the humans were not just warriors, they were teachers, leaders, and protectors. She felt a new respect for them and a new hope for her people. The next morning, the humans began preparing for the next possible attack. They trained small groups of Elvari to use simple tools as weapons, to move quietly in the forests, and to recognize danger. They set up lookout posts along the ridges and hills. Brian led exercises that showed the Elvari how to act without panic. Lily flew overhead, observing patterns and signaling instructions. Jason continued to improve the towers, adding small communication devices that allowed instant alerts across the valley. The Elvari began to feel stronger with each passing hour. What had seemed impossible before defending themselves, planning, fighting alongside humans, was now becoming natural. They saw that even ordinary villagers could contribute meaningfully if they followed guidance. Fear still lingered, but it was no longer paralyzing. It became focus, determination, and a desire to protect what they loved. Late that afternoon, distant movement appeared again. Scouts spotted a small Breck patrol moving through the hills. The humans prepared quickly. Brian took the lead. Lily coordinated the watchers from above, and Jason checked the towers one last time. The Elvari joined quietly, ready to follow instructions. When the Breck approached, they found not a panicked population but a village ready to defend itself. The Breck attacked, but the humans and Elvari worked together like a single force. Traps slowed the raiders, towers lit alarms that confused them, and the humans moved swiftly to protect the villagers. Even small children helped in small ways, guided carefully by the adults. The Breck had never seen this kind of coordination before. They were forced to retreat again, leaving the valley untouched this time. By nightfall, the valley was quiet. For the first time, the Elvari saw that they might survive the Breck. And not just survive, they might fight back and protect their homes. Maela watched the humans around the fires, tired but alert. It was real, and it came in the form of these strangers, who had answered a call for help that no one else could or would answer. The morning sun rose slowly over Lareth, painting the valley in soft orange and pink light. The smoke from the previous battles had begun to fade, but the land still bore marks of destruction. Fields were burned, fences broken, and homes reduced to charred remains. Yet, despite the scars, the Elvari felt something new. Hope. Humans had come, and they had shown the villagers that survival was possible. Brian Carter stood at the edge of the main village, looking over the horizon. His mind moved fast, planning every step. He knew the Breck would not give up so easily. They were patient, clever, and ruthless. If the humans and Elvari wanted to survive, they had to prepare for something bigger. Lily Ward hovered nearby in her small shuttle, scanning the distant hills with sensors and cameras. Jason Brooks adjusted equipment on the towers and checked the drones. The humans did not relax, even for a moment. They had learned long ago that preparation was the difference between survival and defeat. Brian called a meeting with the Elvari Council. Elder Cora, Elder Niall, and Maela joined, along with several villagers who had shown courage in the previous attacks. The Breck will return, Brian said plainly. We have slowed them, but they will come again, larger and stronger. We must prepare, or our people will suffer more than they already have. Maela nodded, listening carefully. She had grown to respect the humans' ability to see the future in ways the Elvari could not. The first step was training. The humans divided the villagers into small groups. Brian worked with the older men, showing them how to defend paths and set simple traps. He did not teach complicated weapons or tactics. He focused on what they could do with their hands and minds. Maela observed, helping him, and found that the villagers learned quickly. They understood the humans' instructions, and they were eager to protect their homes. Lily took the younger villagers and children to the hills. She taught them how to move silently, how to hide, and how to signal danger. The children were afraid at first, but Lily had a calm voice and a patient smile. She explained that fear was natural, but it could be controlled. By the end of the day, the children were running through the hills, playing with sticks as if they were weapons, learning without knowing it. They were learning to be ready. Jason worked with engineers, farmers, and even the curious children, converting the old irrigation towers into strong watchposts. He added lights, alarms, and small drones that could move quietly above the fields. The Elvari were amazed at how quickly he could change old tools into new solutions. With these towers, we will see them coming, Jason said. While the villagers trained, Brian planned patrols and defensive lines. He knew the Breck would not only attack the valley, they would try to cut off escape routes and corner the people. Brian walked with a few volunteers through the forests, pointing out hiding places, narrow paths, and locations where the Breck could be slowed. He taught the villagers to work together, to trust one another, and to act quickly when danger came. By the end of the day, even the most frightened villagers felt ready to face the coming attack. Night fell, and a quiet tension settled over the valley. Fires burned in the watchtowers. Drones hovered silently above, and the humans moved through the village, checking every detail. Maela walked alongside Brian, asking questions and learning. "How do you stay so calm?" she asked. Brian shrugged. "We do not ignore fear," he said. "We use it to guide our actions. Panic never helps. Control and focus do." Maela thought about this carefully. She realized the human's calmness was not weakness, it was strength, and it inspired those around them. The first signs of the Breck came as distant lights in the hills. Scouts spotted them moving in formation, larger than before, with more machines and strange weapons. The humans and Elvari prepared immediately. Families moved to hidden shelters, and those who had been trained took their positions. Traps were checked, watchtowers lit, and drones positioned to fly silently above the attackers. The humans and villagers moved like a single organism, each knowing their role, each understanding the stakes. The Breck attacked at dusk. They stormed down the hills, their machines loud and terrifying. Fires lit the sky, and the valley trembled under the force of their arrival. But the humans were ready. Brian led a team that intercepted the first wave, using obstacles, traps, and careful positioning to slow the Breck. Lily flew above, signaling safe paths for villagers and marking enemy positions. Jason activated the towers, sending alarms and bright lights that disoriented the attackers. The villagers followed their instructions, moving quickly and calmly. Maela worked tirelessly, helping the injured and guiding children to safety. She had never imagined she could act so quickly under pressure. The humans did not panic. They acted decisively, and the Elvari learned by watching and copying. Farmers threw simple tools to knock down machines, children helped carry supplies, and women formed protective lines to shield the most vulnerable. The humans had shown them how to survive, and now they were seeing it in action. Hours passed. The Breck tried different attacks, but the humans and Elvari adapted each time. Each wave was met with a new strategy. Traps in the fields, obstacles in the hills, towers that lit alarms at the right moment. The humans were fast, clever, and fearless. The Elvari began to trust their own abilities as well. They saw that if they worked together, they could resist even the most dangerous enemy. By midnight, the Breck withdrew again. They were frustrated, their strategy failing, their attacks slowed and disrupted. The valley was scarred, but no lives were lost. Villagers whispered in amazement at what they had accomplished. They had survived an attack that would have destroyed them just days before. Maela looked at the humans and realized that the difference was not just weapons or machines. It was courage, planning, and the ability to act without hesitation. The humans gathered with the Elvari to assess the damage and prepare for the next day. Brian spoke to the council. "They will return," he said, "but we will be ready. Today, you learn to act as one. Tomorrow, you will be stronger. And every day after that, you will learn more. Courage grows when it is tested, and you have passed the first test." Maela nodded. She had never imagined that ordinary villagers could achieve such results. The humans had taught them more than survival. They had taught them confidence and hope. The next morning, the humans continued their work. They trained villagers in small groups, teaching techniques to protect themselves and each other. They improved the towers, added more drones, and mapped every path in and out of the valley. Even the children continued to practice, learning to move silently and signal danger. Slowly, the Elvari began to see themselves not just as victims, but as participants in their own survival. Brian walked through the village with Maela, pointing out areas that could be strengthened. "Do not rely on us alone," he said. "You have to trust yourselves. We are here to guide, but you must act when the moment comes." Maela felt a surge of determination. She realized that humans could inspire courage, but it was up to her people to take that courage and use it. She understood that fear could be overcome, and even the smallest villagers could play an important role in defending their homes. Late that afternoon, scouts reported new Breck movements. This time, the attackers were larger, more organized, and seemed to have learned from their previous failures. The humans and Elvari prepared again, stronger and more confident than before. Families moved to shelters. Traps were set, and watchtowers glowed with alarms. The villagers had learned quickly, and now they acted not from fear, but from determination. When the Breck arrived, they found a valley ready for them. The humans led the defense, moving quickly and efficiently. The Elvari followed instructions perfectly, blocking paths, signaling warnings, and protecting the innocent. The attack was fierce, but the Breck were met with unexpected resistance. For every machine they destroyed, they were slowed by careful traps. For every path they tried to use, they were met by villagers who acted with courage and precision. By midnight, the Breck finally retreated, unable to break the defenses. The valley was battered, but the people had survived. For the first time, the Elvari realized that humans were not just helpers, they were teachers, leaders, and examples of what courage looked like. Maela looked at the horizon, where the shadows of the retreating Breck disappeared, and felt a sense of awe. Brian gathered the humans and villagers together. "Today you learned that you can fight together," he said. "Tomorrow, you will learn more. And one day, you may not need us at all. Courage, planning, and action will be your weapons. The humans will always help when we can. But you have the strength now to protect yourselves." Maela nodded, understanding that the future of Lareth was no longer just in the hands of outsiders. The Elvari had learned to fight, to survive, and to hope. The stars shone brightly over the valley, silent witnesses to the courage that had grown there. For the first time, the Elvari knew that even the greatest threat could be met, not with despair, but with courage, planning, and determination. Humans had shown up when no one else would, and in doing so, they had changed everything.